All right, hey everybody, how you doing? It's Todd Ledbetter, and we are here in the year 1995 for my favorite albums of the year. And interesting one, um, a little bit of a surprise as I took a couple days to get through my list to figure out what I was going to do. That's why I didn't post anything yesterday. Just didn't quite work out. Couldn't quite make up my mind. It was kind of an obscure, list to go through, and I came up with what I came up with. Feel pretty good about it. Could change a couple things. Maybe five or six could be switched or replaced, but nevertheless, pretty darn close in that area. But then once you get past that, it's pretty clear. All right, so let's go ahead and make this short and sweet, and we'll get right to it with my number six. This is 1995, my favorite albums, and remember to like the video and subscribe and push the notification bell. That really helps me out a lot here on YouTube and the platform. Make a also comment down below. Let me know what you think of the my list, and if you have other suggestions you'd like me to know about, or also maybe a suggestion for an album review, and we can do that as well. So let's get going. My first, number six today is Smashing Pumpkins. Once again, they make the list with Mellon, Collie and the Infinite Sadness. Pretty good album. Definitely had some hits on it and played pretty well throughout the whole album. I like it. The only thing I did notice with it is, one of the things that I talked about a while ago is we're more introduced to some of the modern technology. Oh, look at my glasses. These are my new glasses. I finally got some new ones. They look like goggles on here. I broke like all my glasses in like a few months ago. I finally got around to getting some new ones. Anyways, I can see. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the new technology. And one of the things, some of the songs on this album, they sound like he used like the Line 6 pod a lot for his guitar. There's just a certain sort of sound that's a little bit dated, but then other songs he's got some killer crunch and some pretty good tone and stuff like that. But every once in a while I'll hear that certain sort of Line 6 pod sort of sound that I don't really care for. Although I like Line 6 and it's fine, whatever. But some of the new technology wasn't like perfected yet, but they used it anyways, and that's what we got. So pretty good album nonetheless. I did like it. Smashing Pumpkins. It's kind of an interesting band, and in that vocally not super great, but it still works. Even though he's not a great singer. But there's a lot of bands that don't have great singers that still work. I mean, you could. I mean, I dare you to call Jimi Hendrix a great singer, but he's still great. He's a great singer. Bob Dylan, whatever. Tom Petty, whatever. It's just a style, really. I think is what's cool about it is its own uniqueness to it that makes it great. That's why I like Billy Corben. He's an interesting character, and he makes interesting music too. And he continued to make music way beyond his hit making period that was interesting as well. All right, so that's number six for 1995. I can't believe we're already in 1995. We're already halfway. We're in the second half of the 90s already, and we started in 1970. Okay, so let's get to it then. Number five, debut album, Foo Fighters. Pretty good, definitely. A sign of things to come for the Foo Fighters. Like I said before, I liked Nirvana. Okay, I never was a huge fan, but I like the Foo Fighters way better. I've been a fan of Foo Fighters since day one, and I'm glad that their music just got better and better from this album forward. I think the story goes that Dave Grohl pretty much did this album by himself in his house or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, look at this," to whoever his producer buddy or whoever it was. I don't remember the story, but sort of goes along like that. And it's like, "Yeah, let's do it," and released it, and then the rest is history. So this is a call, good song. I'll stick around, Big Me. Alone at Easy Target, good grief, floaty. These are all good songs. It's just a fun album. It's got a couple of good hits on it. Uh, the hits are kind of, sort of not as rocky, not as ballsy as as you think as you think of the Foo Fighters, and that's sort of why I'm kind of glad they moved forward, and really became what they are today. And big fan of the Foo Fighters. Really like them a lot. They've had a lot of, weird, ups and downs, band members in, band members out. But I think they pretty much pulled it together, and with the leadership of Dave Grohl, he seems like a great guy, and he's done well for himself. So definitely a big fan. All right, so that was number 5 for 1995. That brings us to that brings us to number 4, and here you go. Let me. There we go. Yeah, definitely a good album, and another band that just keeps getting better and better. Radiohead, The Bins, really good album. A lot of great songs. High and Dry was definitely a hit for them. Fake Plastic Trees, big hit for them. Um, Super good. There's probably another song on here that's a hit too, but I love this album. I just listened to it again. Definitely worth a listen. If you haven't heard it for a while, get back into it because bring back those memories. Boy, I remember when you first heard Fake Plastic Trees. I was like, what? Fake what? Yeah, Fake Plastic Trees. Good song. I love it. Yeah, so Radiohead hitting their stride. They're starting to really make a name for himself and really become that sort of iconic band that they kind of turned out to be. Yeah, as far as just their musical style and sort of the genre that they really perpetuated, and they really brought forth that unique sound, kind of experimental, moody, real sometimes angst driven, and sometimes you just feel it in the pit of your stomach. You're just like, oh, this song doesn't make me feel good, but I like it. Something something's wrong here. It's just kind of pointing out the realities of this world and humanity in the instrumentation and the lyrics and the vocal abilities of, well, what's the lead singer's name? Tom, I think, maybe. Could be wrong. Correct me on that if I am. Super good though. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so that already number 4. So let's get another band that I just, they were just on my list. They've been on my list a couple of times because this is their time. This is when they shine. And we're gonna go with Alice in Chains. This is their self-titled album. It's their 3rd album, I believe. Grind, Brush Away, Sludge Factory. It's a really good album. A little more rockin' than their last kind of acoustic EP. Uh, it's got those great harmonies from Lane and Jerry, and Jerry's killer guitar work. Love it a lot. Big fan of Alice in Chains during this time. Actually, I think I'm always a fan of Alice in Chains. So that's number 3. All right, another band that has been in the list lately, and this is a really good one for me. I like this album a lot, and I like this band a lot. And it's Collective Soul. This is also a self-titled. We got a few self-titled albums here. We got the Foo Fighters self-titled, and Alice in Chains self-titled, Collective Soul self-titled, and my number 1 is also self-titled album. Not all of them are their first albums, though. They're just self-titled. But this is a pretty good album for Collective Soul. They really hit the net on the nail on the head, hit the bullseye, whatever other metaphor you want to use. Simple, Untitled, The World I Know is a big hit. Smashing Young Man's a fun song. December's a hit. Where the River Flows is a great song. Gel's a great song. She Gathers Rain, I love it. When the Water Falls, I love it. Collection collection of goods, yeah. Bleed and Reunion. This is a great album. I love this album. I love Collective Soul. I like their sound, and I continue to like them well after this album was released. This was pretty early. This is like their second album, and they just really took that, that success that they had. They almost, from what I remember, I told the story of that their album was released in '93, their first one, but was released on an independent label, and basically didn't do anything, and they almost quit. From what I remember, the story being is they literally were just gonna just not do music anymore. They were just gonna quit because it didn't work out like they thought it would. But quitters never win, so good thing they didn't. And then they got picked up by a major label, and then boy did they make good on it for their second album, because that is a really good album. All right, now the number one album. uh okay, I don't want to stir any controversy, and I don't see why I would, but with this album, but it is a little different. um it's their debut album. Okay, let me say that it's their debut album, and they had a hit, a mainstream hit off this album. So that's why I'm including it in this album, even though as a genre, you could put them somewhere else. So let me explain what I mean by that. We're talking about Jars of Clay, because they're definitely a Christian band, Christian rock band. I've seen them a couple of times in a couple of different venues that I've been to. Very good band, and this is their debut album, and they had that hit Flood right here in the green. There was like very unique song. It had some cool guitar work in it, and people were like, "That's a cool song." So they definitely hit the mainstream with this album, with this song. But the whole album is fantastic. It is a beautiful album. Liquid, Sinking, Love Song for a Savior, Like a Child, a great song. Art and Me is a great song. He, A Boy on a String, is so cool. Flood, Worlds Apart and Blind, just top to bottom, excellent, excellent, excellent album. And that's why, and definitely out of all these albums, I probably listen to this album more than any album on my list here. Um, and I'm talking about my number six, Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, Foo Fighters self-titled album, Radiohead, The Bends, Alice in Chains self-titled, Collective Soul self-titled. I don't know, Collective Soul. I listen to that a lot too, so that's why it's kind of neck and neck. Things could jostle around a little bit here with this, but Jars of Clay, their debut album, self-titled Jars of Clay, is a gorgeous album. Beautiful instrumentation, fantastic songs, and they had a mainstream hit. And as a few Christian bands were having some mainstream hits in the '90s, I can think of like Switchfoot, um, and there's a few others too. But and if those come up here in the second part of the '90s and the 2000s, we'll take a look at it. If it's warranted. If it's in my favorite top six or top 10 or whatever. But it's interesting. Let me just kind of let you know what else is going on in '95, and some big hits. They're just not my thing. Like Jagged Little Pill by Atlantis Morissette. I mean, that thing was huge. I mean, I don't know how many albums that sold, but I'm sure it was probably one of the biggest selling albums of that year. You got Oasis, not a real big fan of Oasis. You got Tupac, you got No Doubt, Tragic Kingdom, that was a huge hit. You got Mariah Carey, Daydream, Garbage. I listened to that album when it came out. I liked it. Um, let's see, what else you got? You got Rancid, you got Jewel, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Natalie Merchant, Tiger Lily. That was a huge album. You got the Chemical Brothers, White Zombie, Blur, Tracy Chapman, Emmylou Harris, R. Kelly, Ben Harper. So there's a lot of stuff. Bruce Springsteen, The Ghost of Tom Joad, that was well received, I think, critically. But I never really, listened. I never really listened to or bought a lot of Bruce Springsteen's albums, although I like them. And some of his earlier stuff is my favorite. But great career, great artist. Let's see. Then you got Deftones, definitely awesome band. Faith No More. Elliot East, or not Elliot Easton from the Cars, great guitar player though. Um, Elliott Smith. You got the Goo Goo Dolls, A Boy Named Goo, huge. Red Hot Chili Peppers, one of my favorite bands, but One Hot Minute, it was good, it was okay, not my favorite. Would have been in my top 10 probably. You got Queen, Made in Heaven, Ben Folds 5. I tried to like them, but I'm not really a big fan. I mean, he's okay, whatever. Flaming Lips, Teenage Fan Club, Bon Jovi, Prince, Cypress Hill. So, there's a lot of music. You got AC/DC Ball Breaker. Okay, it's definitely an AC/DC album. Not super notable. I think they start kicking it in high gear after this, though. Again, you got the Jayhawks. Good. Love the Jayhawks. You got Mirror Ball by Neil Young. Very good. Probably would have been in my top 10. I like that album. Uh, let's see. You got Fish. Got LL Cool J. Scott Walker. That's an interesting. I don't know if you ever heard of Scott Walker, but I got kind of into a Scott Walker kick. He was part of the Walker brothers, and he's an American guy, but he had a huge successful career in Europe, and very very strange music. He started out very kind of poppy, like early, like sort of Bee Gees, but he doesn't sound like the Bee Gees. Actually, he sounds opposite. He's a great singer. The older he got, the more trippy he got. He was like uh, David Bowie's like David Bowie almost modeled his style after um, Walker. That doesn't really tell you much, but if you ever want to get experimental, Scott Walker's kind of an interesting road to go down. Tilt was a very strange album, but I actually wrote a song uh, trying to be Scott Walker. I like had him in mind, and I wrote a song and recorded it. Um, didn't sound anything like Scott Walker or anything, but just how you kind of have that in mind. Sometimes you'll hear artists that are famous and have big hit songs, and they'll say, "I was thinking about this song when I wrote this song." So that's kind of what I did that with this particular song that I wrote. It's on my Bandcamp. Um, I'm trying to remember which one it was called. If I think of it, I'll remind you. But um, Scott Walker, check it out. Matthew Sweet. I'm a big Matthew Sweet fan, but 100% Fun was not good enough for me. His next album is pretty good. Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Ledbetter Heights. He had that album. Remember that? I do because it's got my name in it. And so there you go. That's kind of what was up against my top six for 1995. And that's it. Hey, I guess we'll just end it here. Don't forget to subscribe and to like and to click the notification bell. Let me know what you liked in 1995. What was on your playlist? Give me a list of five, or give me a list of a couple, or let me know what you think of my list, and uh, and also give me some recommendations if you'd like to have an album review or get my opinion on an album or a band that you like. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I sure appreciate you guys, and we will see you once again in 1996. Wow, we're getting close. 1996 coming up. See you guys. Thanks.